Hey everybody, I wanted to give an update and give you a clearer picture and then show the charts. The only way I can kind of quickly think of how to do this, since I haven't figured out how to get my laptop to produce video with me in the corner yet. I will figure it out at some point, but I just wanted to put this quickly out there and give you a visual on the charts that I was discussing in my live stream thing. So I'm going to flip this over to the charts and go over once again what I was talking about with Bitcoin. Okay, so this is the daily time frame I have it on. I'm going to show you the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. So this is the triangle that I was talking about. I had drawn these lines before this candle. So I had drawn these lines before that candle happened. So I was thinking, okay, if it breaks out of this, then that's going to be positive, and it will then reach that 48,000 target approximately, which would be the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement off the lows of 15,460. Getting back to 48 would be about a 60, 61, 62% retracement. That's what I think is most likely. So we pop over the top of this, and then the very next day, we got a hard push that you see the lower wick dipped below the triangle, but by the time that day had finished, it was back in this range that we've been in for quite some time. This goes all the way back to December 5th. And so now we are on Saturday, Sunday, depending on which time frame you're in. This is where we are at right now. So now we're back slightly above the top of the triangle here. So in my analysis, looking at the relative strength is at 56.22. So that's room to potentially run higher, because we've just been consolidating during this time. It has cooled off the RSI and also the average RSI. I've been kind of incorporating that in my trading, looking at the actual RSI, which is this line here, and then the average RSI, because that's taking an average of prices and averaging them out and coming up with this line versus the immediate RSI levels here. So I generally am starting to use this where if the actual RSI pokes pretty far above the average RSI, then that's when I start looking to take some profit. So this is an example right here. The average, the actual RSI reached 81.42 at that point, which was the highest price that Bitcoin had reached ever since its all-time high of 69,000. So I kind of use this also, just like I now have been incorporating the 200 period moving average, which is an average that many investors use. They don't usually use small time frame averages, but they will use the 200-day, and that's pretty much it. They won't use a 205-minute moving average or a 200-hour moving average. But I've now been experimenting with using the 200-period moving average on shorter time frames. But anyway, that's not, I'm not going to get into that on this video, because on this one, I'm only going to focus on the daily time frame and the weekly and the monthly. So this is the daily, and this is what I was talking about. And again, we are at a low RSI relative. So it's 56 RSI on the daily chart. So that's one of the factors that makes me think we're going to have one more push higher. But in the bigger picture, going to the weekly time frame, we've got this. So I still have my lines in there. I'm not taking them off about the triangle. But this is how the weekly chart looks. So another thing, just like the 200 period moving average, I use the 12 period exponential moving average, which is this line, and underneath it is the 26 period exponential moving average. So how they work is they put more emphasis on the more recent prices, but it's some formula that on the 12, it's using the last 12 periods and giving you the average price, which puts it to here. But it's also putting more emphasis on the more recent candles. So it's using 12 candles, but it has some formula for putting a little higher emphasis on the more recent ones of the last 12. And the 26 is the same idea, except it's going to be a slower moving one because it's taking the last 26. So anyway, those are the things that I use as far as indicators. I use 12, 26 exponential moving average. I'm now using the 200 period moving average, but that is obviously going to move much, much slower. So there's the 200 period, which since I'm looking at a weekly chart, that's the last 200 weeks. So that's why this is so far below, because we've had such a big move, but the move was recently. But anyway, getting back to the RSI levels, the weekly RSI is at 75. And more recently, it was up as high as 83 on this particular week here about a month ago. So we are overbought for sure on the weekly time frame. And the RSI has cooled off a little bit, but it's still in the high 70s. So the way this week is looking like it's finishing, it's very strong. It's finishing up at the top and slightly out of the range of the previous 3 weeks. So if I took this candle out of here, then you would really see that tightening range from this week to this week. These are inside bars when you use it in the context of this candle right here. So you have a weekly inside bar that fits inside of that week, and a weekly inside bar that fits inside of that week. And then we pushed out of that slightly. So I give the advantage to the bulls because we are still going strong. Now on the monthly time frame, so again, we have not created a higher low. This is just a bull flag. So I don't constitute that as creating a higher low. It's just a continuation of the move with a pause, but it's not consolidated. It has not consolidated. It's just continuing, going sideways, creating a flag, and more than likely, I think, then the flag will break to the positive. And the same thing on the monthly chart. So there's going to be fewer candles, obviously, but you will also see that we have not had any pullback on the monthly time frame. Just give me 1 minute here. So there we go. So from the low, back here, it was actually on this month here, which was 2022, November, that was the low at 15,460 right there. So then we went up, a bull flag on the monthly chart, and then 1, 2, 3, and we're just in the beginning of January, so who knows what will happen. But we got 3 straight months up, and we're already higher on the 4th month with no higher low created. And on the monthly chart, we are at a 63, and we were coming off of the low, which got to 40. So on a monthly time frame, when you're moving 23 points on the RSI without really having a substantial pullback, that is a very large move, as you already know, from 15,000 to currently 44,000. So again, in the big picture, I believe we are due for some pretty big consolidation. But in the short time frame, we have not retraced yet 61.8%. So with the triangle that I drew, using the weekly chart, so I'm going to go back to the weekly chart, drawing, it's actually better from the daily chart to show you my point where something that I learned, how to measure potential moves. Let me just get it back into the screen here. Measuring potential moves, you take the back end of the triangle, and if you were to do it correctly, you would just draw a line from here to the top, right? So the size of that line, you would then drag it over to the point where the breakout happens. So I would use it somewhere around here. And then the length of that line that I said you would draw from the back, you would then put that line and enter it at the bottom of that line at the breakout area. And then that would give you a price up in the upper 47,000s to 48,000s. It's not an exact science, but that to me is the most likely. And that will then equal to that Fibonacci retracement of approximately 61.8% retracement. Now, that's just an estimate based on what I'm seeing. Everything I'm talking about is just what I think is most likely. Could it go all the way to 69,000 and break the all-time record? It certainly could. But to me, it's not likely, because, especially in the near term, because you have such high RSI levels on the weekly time frame that if you don't take a break on that weekly time frame, I don't believe you can just keep going straight up and get to that all-time high. So that's how I'm going to wrap it up here. So I think that this will make things more clear because you can see the charts that I'm talking about. So again, daily time frame RSI is reasonable. We are also trading at the moment slightly out of the triangle, and I'm anticipating maybe this week will be the final week that we reach a top, and then we have some consolidation. The stock market has already been pulling back since the very beginning of the year, but Bitcoin has still remained stronger than the stock market at this point. All right, so I hope you like what you see. I hope that explains things a little bit better and clearer because I'm doing it this way. So I'll post this and let me know what you think.